The Democratic Party does not have a goal to save us or defend us from this coup taking into fruition. They are planning on just sitting by in their paid elected office. As American constitutionalism and democracy is ended by this dictator. Why? Hakeem Jeffries is saying how useless they are out loud, and the fact is they're not useless, they're just refusing to maximize on their powers. Why? Decorum. Actually, more, I believe they're scared. They're scared of the consequences of them defending the United States of America. Let's look at this image shared by Rick Steves. I've been thinking about a poignant memorial at the Reichstag in Berlin dedicated to the 96 members of the German Congress who spoke out against Mustache Man, but failed to stop him as he thundered into power in 1933. These were the last people who could have stopped the fascist dictator, so they became his first victims. Each slate slab remembered one politician with his name, political party, and the date and location of his unalive, generally in a camp. They are honored in front of the building, Germany's capital, where they worked to defend democracy in their country. You know who isn't defending us? The Democratic Party. Hakeem Jeffries says, what leverage do we have? We have the blue economies, but he doesn't bother to look at that strategy because what? That would take too much thinking outside of the box. It controls the House, the Senate, and the presidency. What about the states? What about state rights? What about the blue economies, Hakeem Jeffries? And you're gonna say they're probably scared of their family. I don't care. If I was a congressman, I would not give an F. I would follow Berlin and actually defend and do my job. You know why? I'm from South Central, so I grew up with something called ride or die. It's been misinterpreted in pop culture in regards to only unconditional support, but it actually means that you go into the line of fire to defend and protect. And that's not what they're doing. That's not what they're doing because they're scared of that power. And the worst thing is that they're convincing Americans and progressives that we're okay and that as long as the checks and balances work, then we have an official solution out of this. However, what happens when this government refuses to uphold court decisions, which they can do because who takes someone who is disobeying the court orders? The U.S. Marshals. That's part of the Department of Justice. Who controls the Department of Justice? The executive, the president. And this reliance on just checks and balances that already exist, and he himself says, who controls it? The United States president. As a result, because the Democratic Party has chosen to just be Uvalde officers and watch as our 236-year-old American constitutionalism experiment is basically ended. Not basically, literally ended. We are going into the slaughterhouse, believing that it's a saving grace when it's actually just a transition into forever fascism. And that's the thing, because they're going to convince you that they've tried their best, and people believe them. People believe them. They're going to vote blue no matter who, when the standards of blue is all the way to the floor. So now we have no confidence in the Democratic Party, at least the federal one, in saving us or defending us because they do not have the backbone or don't care to sacrifice their life for their actual job. I wrote a letter to my governor, Gavin Newsom, the fifth largest economy. And it would mean a lot to me if you engaged and shared this so that he can hopefully see this, because at this point, it's going to be the end of our constitutional republic. That's it. You know, writing Congress isn't going to help because they keep the same excuses and we believe them. Dear Governor Gavin Newsom, you lead the fifth largest economy yet are satisfied with bare minimum resistance against a tyrant who took office contrary to a constitutional mandate of upholding constitutional authority against all violators, both foreign and domestic. I am disheartened that you have accepted the legacy of the Uvalde officers standing by as the perpetrators against our liberties freely harm us. You remind me of the government of Poland, handing over 3 million of its 3.3 million Jews for Nazi extermination just to keep the peace and minimize harm. I'm heartbroken that while my state can be used to lead a blue resistance against the agenda, you've decided to silently kiss the ring. Your apathy to protecting Californians, apart from your words, echoes a wider betrayal by the party to maximize constitutional powers to prevent mass-scale harm by an executive whose legitimacy is yet to be concluded. If presidents have immunity, but the Jack Smith report confirms he interfered in 2021 to change the 2020 election, violating his Article 2 oaths and duty, breaching our supreme Article 6 Supremacy Clause mandate, then you, as governor, have a duty to Article 6, Section 3, not playing along with the charade. The fact you leverage the constituents' lack of constitutional knowledge to betray Californians by throwing particular groups into the Trump fire instead of maximizing state rights is telling of a reputation you hold that obeys in advance to safeguard your political future. I can't even get a passport, and HR 22 will ensure that I don't vote because of it. If California's Constitution Section 24 states that rights guaranteed by this Constitution are not dependent on those guaranteed by the United States Constitution, then why are you allowing this illegitimate tyrant takeover to trickle into our state? Why are you allowing California's tax dollars to fund his Super Bowl visit and Doji coup? I'll tell you what I'll do if I was a competent California governor who cared about protecting Californians and reducing harm of Trump's agenda. I would leverage California's economy to bullhorn a blue state resistance by threatening to declare state or region autonomy unless disqualification of the ticket is satisfied to restore constitutional legitimacy. I would then threaten to secede without congressional approval if this does not occur within an appropriate time frame. In the meantime, the state or autonomous region will only fund itself with no federal taxes being sent to the federal government unless it is restored. You think we can do this? Neither can we have a POTUS who usurped constitutional supremacy. The Constitution is virtually void, and Trump demonstrates this every day. At this point, you're no different than the government heads who allowed the Third Reich to subvert its sovereignty. You're failing Californians, Governor. Restoration or autonomous declaration without federal approval. We must end this. Prohibit ICE from operating in California. Grow a backbone. If California fails to have a spine, then progress in America is futile, and the coup has already succeeded through you obeying in advance to the largest constitutional security threat in our lifetime. The future of our constitutional republic lies in your rejection of willful compliance. Weaponized incompetence has consequences, and February 23, when ICE plans large-scale deportations in Los Angeles, is an example of what your performative resistance is unnecessarily allowing to occur. Following the Constitution when branch failures have allowed this auto coup to occur is a violation of your duty to follow rules derived from the Constitution, not a coup. Californians have zero confidence in our branches. Our only confidence lies in you, Governor. Please stop obeying in advance. We fight for California now because only then can we save others. Leverage our blue economy. Don't sacrifice it for a hand that doesn't even feed us. And this is what inspired the letter. Californians are paying into this nonsense against Article 6, Section 3 obligations. I know many Californians see him as our hero, but he's doing the bare minimum resistance. February 23 is when mass deportations will begin in Los Angeles. Under this constitutional crisis, my governor and attorney general can move to prohibit ICE from operating in our state, but decorum, Democrat apathy reminds me of Uvalde officials standing by. I don't know if I can ever forgive the party for these continuous failures. Governor Newsom, if you fail, then our liberties are gone as Californians. Please share this because it's gonna end. It's gonna end very soon because the administration isn't going to hold entities accountable for refusing to obey court orders. That means the end of checks and balances. That means the end of a republic. And at the bare minimum, we should safeguard our state and then hopefully bring about a much more just, at least regional, autonomous territory, if that means that we have to separate from the dominant America.